The hype continues to build prior to the beta coming on the 28th. I did see a little bit of footage of Lowlight speaking English. Never seen that before. But we've got an interview from IGN here. The Arknights Endfield producer interview, expanding the Arknights universe with 3D RPG. I'm curious what's going on here. So, should we get into it? Because I'm interested to see what's going on here. Hopefully, some decent questions are asked, and we get some straight from the horse's mouth information here. So, let's watch this one. And then we'll get into things, man. Let's have a look.
Arknights Endfield is a real-time 3D RPG published by Griffline. I got to go hands-on with the game ahead of its second beta test.
It's kind of expected that this was going to happen as well, because we saw they had a sponsored thread article before. Remember when they kind of leaked the 2026 release date and everybody was like, they're drunk? And I was like, I think they are, but there's some connection there. They're obviously choosing a few outlets, should I say, to work with in the West. And, you know, IGN get meaned on, but they're quite big. It makes sense to probably, work in tandem with them along with other things as well, right?
And I got a ton of questions about what comes next. And I'm joined by none other than the co-founder and director of Hypergryph.
Is he going to be speaking English in this interview as well? Because I saw a little bit on Twitter and seeing me speak English, I was like, man, I've never seen this before, so...
And producer on Arknights Endfield, like Zhong. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Light, the producer and the director of the Arknights and the Arknights Endfield.
Bro, I love that jacket that he wears as well.
Nice to see you.
Presented by Arknights Endfield.
Okay, so this is a sponsored video then.
Talk to me about this new entry in the Arknights series.
The goats?
How does it fit within the universe?
明日方舟周末地的话是
Okay, it's back to Chinese now, yeah.
对于明日方舟这个 IP 的一个全新的尝试，它为这个 IP 带来了一个非常高品质的次世代一样的次世代级别的视觉效果以及游玩体验。然后我们希望它也是一个能够提高整体明日方舟 IP 的游戏的一个品质的一步。然后，但我未来也会觉得明日方舟 IP 它会有各种各样的游戏类型出现。
It's exciting.
Oh, okay. So this, if he has his way, we are going to get more Arknights games within the universe. Interesting. Okay, I wonder what types of game we potentially get then, because I'm assuming that not everything's going to be an semi-open world RPG. Are we going to see Arknights games, like them kind of maybe doing a Huyo thing where we might see like a turn-based one? I know we've got that X-Astris game, but like an actual full-on Arknights IP game like that. Oh man, that's kind of exciting.
Now, this is a pretty big shift from the original Arknights, which was more of a 2D tower defense style game.
Yeah.
What inspired this shift to a 3D RPG?
作为我自己来说的话，首先我是一个游戏开发者，然后我一直以来也梦想去能够制作更高品质的一个游戏作品。明日方舟虽然也是倾注了我们非常多心血，但本质上来说，它所挑战的技术难点和视觉的一些沉浸感啊，包括一些图形艺术、美术方面的一些所采用的技术还没有达到我们最理想的一种状态。然后那么作为明日方舟成功之后，我们也希望能够结合我们自己经验，再去挑战一个制作难度更高的
When I'm like trying to read between the lines now, I'm inferring like, yeah, obviously he's talking about the visuals, but I think they created such an amazing world, right? And there's probably this part of them as a creative person that wants to give it the expressiveness it deserves, if that makes sense, in terms of like visual clarity, the visual aspect of it all, in regards to like, you know, because they created an amazing world in Terra, didn't they? But obviously, you only get to see it through the guise of the Terra Defense gameplay and the actual little bits of story that we get through the novel type stuff, where they're getting to express their universe a little bit more here and kind of like bring it in a more I don't want to say polished because I feel like that's the wrong word, but like, you know, expansive way, I guess, I suppose, right?
规模更大的一个作品，然后并且这些也是我们方舟玩家 Arknights 的 IP 的玩家所梦想的，他们都想见到有个3D 版的一个明日方舟。
It's very cool. I'm sure people are going to be super excited to go hands-on with it. Now, this is set in a far future, in a new world, Talos-II. What can people expect when they drop into this new planet?
在塔罗斯2的话，就是它的环境肯定会跟明日方舟的情况更加不同，然后玩家会更多，当然也取决于我们游戏的一个舞台选择，我们会。玩家会在塔罗斯2的这个环境中去面对更多的一些自然的一些奇景，非常宏伟的一些景观，然后也会遇到就是说，远离人类文明的都市这样的一些聚落上人们的一些生活，然后他们也会面对一些更加，可能有别于方舟的一些比较复杂的一些冲突，而周末地上他们会在玩家会在塔位上面对的是一些更加直接的一些，比方说生存性的危机。
Okay, so it's exactly like what I was saying before, right? With the type of world. Now, it's not saying we won't have potential history, right? Because obviously there's the secrets going on and stuff that we don't necessarily know about. But the interconnected geopolitics are just not going to be there on a frontier world when you've got a world that's got like history and nations and conflicts that have gone on for centuries, right? Where we're on a frontier here, right? This is kind of like, imagine in our own world, it's like the new world, it's like America, right? There's stuff to happen, there's conflicts to happen and history to be made, but it's not really there. History hasn't been written really yet. Well, there will be, because there was history in America, but you know what I mean? That geopolitical history. But it'll be interesting to see if we do see some of the geopolitics that exist on Terra actually come over here in regards to those sort of interconnected conflicts being brought to the New World, just like how there were in the Americas when European powers settled there. There was the expansion of European conflicts in America, right? So it'd be interesting to see if we see that as well. Yo, what's up, Renegade?
灾害这样的一种体验。
Now, something that I did notice when I went hands-on with the game is how many characters are in the game. How many are going to be available during the second beta test? And I guess what makes this game different from other
9 new characters, yeah.
这次测试的话，我们游戏中有24位干员可以去使用它。然后，在24干员的话，其实我们都是做了比较多不同的一些设计的。然后我认为就是从我们自己角度来说的话，明日方舟也好，周末地也好，它的那个角色设计方法我们会更加去考虑它的一些材质工艺，然后一些它的一些服装的一些做一些功能性，然后并且会让它的风格会趋向于更加前卫一些，然后像周末地本身的一个美术设计方案，美术的一些技术方案中的话，就是能够看到我们角色其实会有很多在视觉的实现上，它的材质会更加复杂，不同于其他的一些 gacha game 的。
I think he's right there. Like, that's one thing what I noticed, when we were listening to the voice lines for Helga, just the detail in the textures and items that are like smaller, more finite parts of the outfits literally being 3D modeled rather than just being flat textures. Because I think most games tend to do that to some degree. And I'm not saying Arknights, Endfield will be like any different, but like on most of the outfits, everything feels like it's actually 3D items, part of the clothing, right? Rather than just something that looks like it's been painted on, if you know what I mean. Because, man, like, let me try and take my buyer's hat off. I do still think, even with taking my buyer's hat off, I think visually it's probably the best looking gacha game. Like, I think if we've got to be honest, the only other game that's probably close to it, or say 2 maybe, would probably be Zenless and We Were, right? Like, We Were at some incredible environments, but I think in terms of character fidelity, I think this has got We Were beat. Although We Were has some gorgeous characters, I'm not taking away from that. And Zenless has some cool looking stuff, but I think generally, it looks a little bit more impressive than Zenless. I suppose with Zenless, they can build on top of stuff sometimes because their environments are a lot smaller, but I still do think the environments in this look better than Zenless as well.
我们会采用更加写实的一种风格去描绘它，因为
Girls Frontline 2 does have some good textures as well, man. Girls Frontline 2 has crazy tights, pantyhose, feet technology. That shit's crazy. If you've ever looked, I haven't looked, by the way. I'm not that kind of guy. Just saying. Heard it through the grapevine.
因为我们会认为方舟的 IP，就无论明日方舟也好，还是周末地也好，我们所探讨的、所描绘的一些景象和一些话题，都是会更加偏向于现实质感的，然后它会更加会稍显严肃一些。
Okay.
我们会觉得那种风格比较适合我们喜欢探讨的一些气质。
Now, the distinguishing element of Endfield is
so we are going to keep mature tones through the game. Love to hear it.
Reshaping Talos-II.
Feat
How does
technologies.
this act of reshaping tie into the player progression and sort of like that long-term gameplay loop?
首先作为一个 RPG 游戏来说，我认为玩家非常重要的一个终极目标就是去不断的提升自己的角色，培养角色的多方面的能力。那么我们会觉得改造塔罗斯2的这个很多养成的玩法也好，工厂玩法也好，至少他们中也要起到一定能够帮助玩家培养角色的一个作用。我们因此设计了一整套这样的一种经营系统和工厂系统去做一个配合。然后玩家最后其实能够通过工厂或是游玩一些据点的一些任务，然后或者是一些其他的玩法，它能获得一种叫做地区货币，我们在游戏中称之为调度券的一种货币。然后它通过调度券可以再去反向去改造世界，去升级一些地图上的设施，并且也能。
I wonder how much that'll evolve over the time of the game as well. You know, the actual amount of environmental change we can enact. You know, I wonder if that will, like, you know, year 5, it'll be a totally different thing if new technologies and game design will be implemented that, like, we can genuinely potentially adjust the landscape, you know what I mean, to quite an extensive degree if they really like do lean into it.
能够去购买一些非常重要的角色提升好感也好啊，或者角色提升性能也好的一些道具，然后并且这个地区的一些改造提升之后，它反过来又会让地区上的资源会提升。反之，角色能够以更快的速度去培养它，玩家能够更快的去获得更多稀有的一些资源，然后这样一套不断相互辅佐的一个循环，能够让玩家就是在改造世界的同时，也能够体验到 RPG 角色变强的快感。另外，我们觉得除了游戏机制上来说，就是我们会为世界改造的一些小目标会设置不少的一些故事，然后
Mini goals for world building.
我们认为这些塑造其实除了在玩法上来说，也能够让玩家从情感上，更愿意去。
Well, we do know one thing that Hypergryph are good at, right, is world building. So I'm hoping, of course, it's a different challenge trying to world build with a frontier because you just don't have the history, do you? The world building just is a lot more, I hate to use the word shallow, but you know, so it'd be interesting to see how they develop that.
帮助故事中的一些角色去建造他们自己的据点，然后间接的去改造这个世界，然后并且我们觉得像能够在地图上放置建筑啊、去采矿这样一些行为，不光是因为能够为玩家提供收益，更多的时候我们想提供一种体验，就是我自己也很喜欢这种体验，就是我能够就是偶尔。把一些东西留在这个世界上，然后我能够在持续的游玩中让这个世界真。
And again, that adds to this idea of us being on the frontier, right? As a frontierman, you are literally changing the landscape, right? So I like the idea that he's talking about there. You know, of us kind of leaving our mark on the world, right?
去随我的一个意愿去发生一些变化。当然这些设计我们也是做了一些精心规划，然后它不至于会让玩家无从下手，它会。大家会根据自己的判断，会比较有趋同性的，会去按照我们的一些比较弱的一些引导，他们会去做那些安排，然后随着他们熟悉游戏之后，他们会开始寻找自己的各自目标，会做出不同的改造世界的一些办法。
Yeah, one thing that was really striking to me was for this like factory building element is obviously not everybody is super familiar with, you know, building out a supply chain and stuff like that.
Okay, we're going to
the
talk
social
about
element of building a blueprint and then sharing that with your community and sort of like that player collaboration I thought was really cool. So talk to me about how that came to be, how you designed that and
that's a part of the whole blueprint situation, and I think's kind of been swept under the rug. I mentioned it previously, is that the whole idea of having the ability to share stuff as well, I think it does generate like a player cooperative community, doesn't it, as well? that I think's kind of been overshadowed by all the worry and the drama around the systems, right? That they've said that the idea for co-op and stuff in the future is like on the tables, but that they're specifically going with getting it launched and giving people a good single player experience. But like already with that there's that community aspect to the game, right? And I think that's kind of a thing that's been overshadowed by everything with the blueprints. I do.
If you have
I know it's kind of minor, but like, you know, it's that user-generated content, right?
Tips for people that maybe are going to become the blueprint experts and setting that first step for everybody else.
自己就是一个工厂玩家，就像做明日方舟的时候一样，就是我们会对这种我们想做的这种我们非常熟悉的玩法，我们知道它的一些缺陷和问题会在哪，所以我们在做这种类型的时候，一定会想办法要把它的一个缺陷在我们作品中能够得到很大的弥补，所以就有了蓝图，而且就是我们的蓝图会认为比我玩过的一些游戏里的蓝图，它可能会更加注重方便，能够快捷使用，然后并且有你提到的像易于社交去分享这么一个特点，然后那么以此为这个基点的话，就是说我们如何去做这么一个工厂的话，我会希望就是新上头的玩家可能不要太心急，就是一般来说我们要比较好的去理解，就是很短的一个生产线。
Well, that might work for CN, buddy. I don't know if it's going to work for global.
如何去做到最好，然后我们把很短的生产线以最好的方式组合在一起，它就能变成一个更大的生产线。
I am super, super excited to see what people will come up with. Now, in terms of vibe setting for the game, you've collaborated with the group Starset a bunch. What was the reasoning for choosing them, and how does their style sort of resonate with Enfield's spirit?
在明日方舟的时候，就是当时也是因为一些机缘巧合，就是我非常想做一条宣传片，然后在选择音乐的时候，就是听到了 Starset 的曲子，然后之前我也听过一些，但是那个时候我会觉得啊，好像这首曲子就会非常适合我们这个片子，然后去做。然后不过当时有个可惜是说 Starset 我非常了解他们的歌曲和他的一些设计歌词的一些背景，然后比较多的歌曲都在探讨一些较为科幻的，或是像是一些太空的主题。那个时候比较遗憾说方舟的一个故事世界观中涉及到天空太空科幻的部分其实会比较少一些，所以在做周末地这个主题的时候，我就想啊，现在是机会了，因为我们有了非常大的宇宙飞船，然后有了从太空降落到地面的一个过程，然后我们又是在一个外星去探索，然后会遇到一些奇怪的外星生物这样一个东西。我说那就 Starset 的歌会太适合不过。
Yeah,
Some more claims.
well, their music rips. Can confirm. Check out Starset if you haven't yet.
Tunes.
Now, we are coming up on Enfield's second beta test. How can fans get their hands on the game, and how long will it be available for?
然后这次测试的时间我们还没有完全去敲定它，因为也要考虑，也会观察玩家的一个推进的一个速度，会去做决定。不过相比之前的测试的话，一定会相对来说会变得比较长。
Okay, it's gonna be longer then.
大家一定是能够有比较多的时间去游玩它里面内容的。另外还有一个就是说，就是我们现在已经得知，我们从后台中已经能看到，就是已经有远远超过我们准备发放资格数量的玩家来报名了，所以说一定会有非常多的玩家，他最终是没有办法能够玩到我们这次测试的。不过我也想对这些玩家说，就是没有关系，不要太担心，因为
No, it's not okay, and there's lots of reasons to worry. I have to be in the test. Please don't tell me this.
我们这次测试也做了非常多准备，其实也是为后面即将到来的公测做准备的，所以说哪怕这次测试没有玩到的话，公测也不会等太久。
Now, Enfield is a cross-platform title.
See, like, this is what I was speaking about before, with it being a longer test, with payments being enabled in CN. They're gonna have to make it a longer test if it, like, there's two ways to go about it, right? The test, well, there's a couple of ways. The test can run up till launch, and it can just be a soft launch and then go into full launch, like under the regulation. It's not like legally binding, but there is acts and regulations set up to because it's considered irregular activity if they start up a beta test, add payments, pull a beta test, then bring a beta test back up, and payments back or off. And it's because like as soon as you enable payments in CN with like a beta, it's technically regulatorily considered a soft launch. So the game's in commercial activity basically. So it leads to the fact that if they want to like get a bunch of stuff done, test some back-end stuff out, the test would be longer, because if they just have a really short test and they don't really get the data they need, they're gonna potentially, you know, garner the eyes of the regulators, and that's something you don't want to do in any country, especially in a place like CN as well that has a lot of layers of bureaucracy. So again, it leads this thing to, you know, this early 2026 launch. But again, you know, this could be a sizable beta that could potentially run for a while, right? But what we expect in you know, couple of weeks, and right, couple of weeks. But interesting to hear that they're definitely going to be running a longer one. But as I say, it makes sense considering payments are enabled.
What was the hardest sort of hurdle to take on when sort of approaching this global release on different platforms? And
again, sorry to keep pausing the video. Just the fact that they're doing this interview for me is great for us in global, because there's one thing that a lot of the time happens to us plebs in global when it comes to CN games, specifically gacha games, live service games, right? We tend to be second fiddle, right? For most games, for the most part. I do really like the fact that Hypergryph have gone, right, we're not only self-publishing, we're going to have a subsidiary that's going to specifically be for global as well, and we're actually going to promote the fuck out of it. You know, this is a really good sign in at least in the Hopium side of me, is that how hopefully well this game's going to be handled, managed, and global's going to be catered for, right? Because we don't really see this from CM-based companies usually, them doing interviews like this with Western organizations, coming to Western expos and stuff and really putting themselves out. And I'm not saying it's unknown, but it's uncommon, isn't it? So again, it makes me hopeful for how we're going to be treated in global going forward as well. Like I'm actually excited about that. Yo, what's up, Deadhound?
What is the end goal for this like multi-platform release?
跨平台对我们来说的话，其实是非常大的一个挑战。然后
I bet it is.
这次我们还是几乎是
Trying to get it on mobile and run like well.
这件事情的挑战多到我们难以想象，就是尤其是像技术实现上的一些困难会非常多。就是首先就是多个平台，我们要做很多不同性能的优化，然后还要去适配不同平台上的一些操作方式。然后就像我自己，哪怕一个很小的例子，就是我自己是做 UI 设计的，就是我们要为手机端去做触屏的设计，要为 PC 端去做键鼠设计，然后要为主机端去做手柄的设计。
This is the thing that I say sometimes. Like, obviously, it can be at the detriment for games being on mobile. It's just a fact, right? And obviously, a lot of CN companies like to do it. But I also think it's quite impressive when you see, you know, even if they do have issues initially, you know, like games like Wuthering Waves, DNA, Genshin Impact, you know, Zenly Zone Zero. Now, how well they actually work on mobile's a question, right? But to be able to develop for these platforms all together is actually really impressive when you think about it, because the mobile device does hinder the development for everything else. And in a sense, you pretty much, especially when you're developing for PC, console and mobile, you've kind of got two games being separately made, haven't you? Because the PC and console version are basically just PC versions, right? It's just the control schemes as he's talking about there. But then the mobile version, you basically, you know, you're throwing a fox into the hen coop in a sense, isn't it, right? You know, you're having to like work on so much more and think of so many more issues, technical, control-wise, UI, as he says as well. And these are things, as us as gamers, we forget a lot of the time, don't we?
同时还要为 PC 和手机也要做一些可能的手柄的一些支持设计，然后它们之间的一些 UI 和操作结构是完全不同的。再加上你能够想象，就是说像手柄上的话，就是偏向于有13个按键的操作方式，然后而我们的角色有4个，每个角色还要使用2种技能和1个连携技，然后它同时还要跳跃、冲刺、攻击，还要有很多打开菜单 和很多按钮，然后这个要都放在手柄上的话，设计起来非常的困难。然后加上我们的 UI 设计还会用一些非常具有平面设计感的布局，它跟一般的游戏的布局会很不一样，会导致我们的手柄要去追踪它的这个选中框的话，其实要做很多不同的设计，所以这个事情，就哪怕是这个 UI 设计这么小的一点，就有非常多我们之前没有预料到、没有做过的设计，让我们花了非常多时间去为它做调整，最终才能准备好去在多平台和全球同步去发行它。
Well, that sounds like a big challenge, but by what I played, you guys knocked it out of the park, so congratulations. Light, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Is there anything you want to say to the fans at home that are chomping at the bit to get into beta test 2?
Of course, it's a quite long time for you waiting for the Endfield. I will thank all the players from all the world to play the Arknights, Endfield, and also...
It's mad hearing the tone shift in his voice when he goes from speaking Chinese to English.
Popcom, XX Trust, and maybe future Hypergryph games. Thank you for playing our games.
Ooh.
And also
Future
not let you
games.
wait for too long time to play Endfield. And thanks doctors from our world. We hope you can enjoy Endfield and become another administrator. Come to Talos-II, then we can fight together. If you played the beta test 2, maybe future official release, please let me know what are you thinking about the Endfield. Please give us more feedback. And
here's my feedback. I think this could help massively in development, success, profits, all of that good stuff. Is you got to make sure I get into the beta. I think that's fundamentally the most important factor here. I think if you do that, it's all good. It's all good. We're all good. We're all gravy, baby.
Help
gravy.
us to make it better and let you more happy than before.
Amazing. Yeah. Light, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Arknights Endfield second beta test is available on November 28th, and you can sign up by visiting enfield.griffline.com to stay up to date on the latest information ahead of its 2026 release on PC, PlayStation, iOS, and Android. Thanks so much for watching, and for all things gaming, you're already at the right place, IGN.
See, basically, that was the tweet, in a sense, what he just said there, you know? That was the tweet, you know, that tweet that went out. That was, well, it did look like it was written by a drunk person, because, like, there was spelling errors everywhere, right? It's fucking bad. But, like, pretty much, again, for me, I think the one thing I really appreciate from Endfield, like, glazing aside, because I glaze this game, right? But I obviously want the game to be good, but one of the fundamental things that I really appreciate from Endfield is this global seems to matter, right? Global genuinely seems to matter, and it's good to see that, because I think obviously they have a massive audience in CN with Chinese companies, right? There's 1 billion people plus, people are becoming more affluent in CN as well. There's a growing middle class. People are spending more money. So, of course, it makes sense to prioritize that market. But I'm hoping that more and more CN companies now are going to take advantage of the Western gaming sphere really failing. Call of Duty, a perfect example this year again of the Western developers really just stumbling at every opportunity to really start to take advantage of this and like move on the global sphere, right? To give us more interesting, cool games. And again, I'm really appreciative of the fact that it seems like global seems to matter. Now, 12 months time, we might be saying, yeah, they fucking screwed the pooch. Bring Yo-Star back. I don't think we're going to do that. I hope we're not going to do that, because I'm hopeful that they're gonna do it right, because everything like screams at the minute that global matter. And that's as obviously as an EN global player that we want that, don't we? So yeah, man, I'm really happy to see these. Great to see him trying to speak English as well, because it means it's good to see developers trying to communicate with their audience, right? And I appreciate that. English is definitely not his first language, of course, but that trying to create that connection, and they're obviously trying to do that with how they're traveling around as well. So more companies do this. I'd like to see more CN companies do this, because I think the global gaming space is willing to welcome them with open arms, because we're seeing rapid improvement coming from CN, right, in terms of game development as the West kind of stagnates. So, end of the day, I don't care where the games are coming from as long as they're good. So, yeah, man, really happy to see this. Yep. Great to see Low Light as well.